Hello, everyone. This is A BITA Business. My name is John FitzGerald, and on behalf of LearMedia.tv and the British and Irish Trading Alliance, welcome to the show and this special 0 to 60 edition. Many of you will recognize our two guests today, Paul Whitnell and Michael Cress, from our show back in early June this year. Paul, as the founder, president and driving force behind BITA, which he set up 10 years ago, and Michael of Porsche, Supercup and British touring car fame. Back then, you both agreed to come back on the show and give us an update on the season. So welcome to you both. For those of you who don't know, Michael started racing only 5 years ago in the BITA Cup, winning the championship at his first attempt, and then winning the BITA Super Cup, also at his first attempt, earning celebrity status and a legion of adoring fans along the way. Michael brings a wealth of useful life experience to the cockpit of any car he gets into, along with a gift for driving very, very fast. So, Paul, let me start with you, please. And I'd like you to talk about the 2021 journey with Michael. What have you really enjoyed? What have you not enjoyed? And what has surprised you most along the way?
Well, it was a real roller coaster. So going up and down on that roller coaster, hanging on was the thing. We've learned an awful lot from the season. It's a very difficult industry to be in many ways, and COVID did not help it at all. In fact, it really harms an industry like that in lots of ways, and we felt the brunt of that. So we had to kind of navigate a lot of challenges this season, and we did so. But from it you learn more and you get stronger. And thankfully, going into 2022, that learning now will be of great benefit to us.
So, Michael, I know you have recently had to deal with COVID. So first and foremost, how are you feeling, and are you fully recovered?
Yeah, all good. Yeah, it was. I got it pretty bad, and it did knock me for 6. And obviously, coming out of Monaco, we then went to Austria, and then when we got back from there, that's when I called it. Just as Porsche cancelled the British Grand Prix, so it was like Paul said, very difficult season. Probably one of my best ever in my career, but obviously also the worst in my career as well with what's happened in 2021. So yeah, exactly what Paul said. It was a disastrous end, but also a great. There was a few great things happened. Racing at Monaco, racing in Austria, and also driving a classic up the hill at Goodwood Festival of Speed, which has always been on my bucket list. So 2 things ticked off this year, but unfortunately the way the season went was a bit tragic in the end.
Well, let's just unpack that a little bit, Michael, because back in June you had just finished your race in Monaco and you were so close to being very, very successful. And in fact, I'll never forget that little maneuver you had when you scooched past all of the carnage on the track, and you were in a great position, and it didn't work out the way you wanted it to, but you were there or thereabouts. So you were then heading off to Austria. So give us a little bit of a flavor for what happened there for the audience, and then tell us, in some more detail, what happened since Austria between then and now.
Yeah, I mean, Austria went really well. I mean, I was obviously going in with bags of confidence after putting it P2 at Monaco and leading the race there, thinking, well, let's go on to Austria and try and get on the podium there. And what I discovered there was, again, still being very new to the Porsche, is that you had to, you have to warm up the tyres in a certain way in a Porsche, and you have to, and especially on them big long tracks and stuff. So first weekend, I sort of pretty much overcooked my tyres, which then like straight away, all the professionals are just going exactly knowing how to do that, and that's a real art of how to warm up a Porsche properly. And I got a thing called cold graining, so I had bags of understeer. So then we went into the following weekend because we were back to back there, and I learned that straight away. And then that weekend we got a lot better. We were mixing it with the front guys, and then coming off a strong weekend there. We sort of heading back to go to the British Grand Prix with 180,000 fans, and Porsche decided to pull the plug on that because of COVID, and Germany, a lot of teams are based were having to quarantine for 14 days, and that affected other championships that the teams were doing, and they decided to pull the plug on it. And then we were about to fly out to Hungary, and then that's when I caught COVID, so we missed the Hungary round, and then it was a decision that was made that we would end up deciding to pull out of Porsche Supercup and focus on 2022.
And Paul, that must have been hugely disappointing for yourself in the back room, but also then the sponsors who were perhaps banking on great airtime, great exposure at the British Grand Prix. How did you handle that, and what was the outcome?
Well, the fact that the sponsors are largely still with us answers that question in itself. We had to make a very, very brave decision very early on to protect everything and to protect Michael's career in terms of its progression. And looking at the 2022 season was our priority then. So the first thing we done, was communicated successfully with our sponsors, because there was so many parameters, there was so many obstacles in the way of a successful season in terms of what we wanted to do. For instance, one of the things that we did enjoy a little bit this season was our race days, our track days. And they were hugely successful with our sponsors. And it was refreshing to get that back on track, pardon the pun. But when we did, it was very exciting, and it was very, very valuable for our sponsors to be able to do that. So that was a piece of good news. But there was many, many other things, obstacles that were still in the way, and COVID was interfering. So, for us, it was very important to communicate with our sponsors, look at the bigger picture, and concentrate on delivering that bigger picture, which is the 2022 season.
And that's fantastic feedback that the sponsors actually decided to stick with the team and stick with Michael. Give us a flavor again, Paul, for who those sponsors were, because I think they deserve a shout out.
Well, the likes of Majestic are a great sponsor. They've actually signed a 3-year deal with us. DPC has been there from the start. DDS Demolition, the very same. Clever Baggers, a very good headline sponsor that we've had from the start also. BITA Glencar is a great sponsor that came on for this season. Skyline, Hive, and MJ Plumbing. So they are the ones that stayed with us. There are others in the pipeline, which is great news as well for the 2022 season. So we're looking forward to getting their name out there and then just planning what this season actually has to hold.
Fantastic. And Michael, people say you always wear your heart on your sleeve, which is part of the reason I think many people root for you, and the fact that you have a great following. Do you think your emotional honesty and your willingness to keep it real helps you in the car with your racing?
Yeah, I mean, definitely. If it wasn't for, I think, my approach like that, then we probably wouldn't be the fans' favourite in touring car. And I say it how it is and how I feel at the time, and I think people can relate to that. And the fans and the marshals and the media really respect that, and I think that's why I probably get a little bit more exposure, and that's why I keep getting the sponsors coming back week in, week out, and that's why me and Paul can try and push forward and stay in British touring car for the next few years. Do you know what I mean? And that's just the way that we approach it and how it is. I mean, Paul has the difficult job trying to rein me in all the time.
Well, someone has to do it, I suppose, Michael, and no better man than Paul. But Paul, can you talk a little bit about 2022? And I'll come to you as well with this, Michael, to just understand your personal goals. But from a team perspective, Paul, what do you hope to achieve in 2022 looking forward?
Well, I go back to the learning, first of all, in 2021. There's been a tremendous amount of learning, considering that Michael had never been in a Porsche up to going to Monaco. And if you take, the imagine the butterflies that are attached to going to Monaco, never been on the track, walking the track the night before, never been in a Porsche, and doing what he did on the day. You know, it's great to see him evolve as a driver, his mentality, his courage. You know, it's a fantastic thing to see that evolve. So these things, we've bagged that. We've kind of, you know, we now have that as a resource. And if you look at the difference between front wheel drive and rear wheel drive, that's another thing that we've learned this season an awful lot more about. So those options are now open to us. So it's great to have that, you know, that kind of experience as well now bagged. So we sit back, we analyze these things, we look at our sponsors, we look at the budgets that are available to us, and then we look at the options, and the options are there. So Michael's popularity is, you know, fantastic within the paddock. And that's another thing that we have in our armour. And he also has something that no other driver has, and that's the support of a great team behind him. If you look at BITA and what that plays its part in terms of what it can do for the sponsors, apart from just the sponsoring and the racing end of it, there's the business end of it. And BITA provides that support to be able to say to sponsors that we can build a partnership together and grow your business within BITA and Michael Cress and his racing. So no other driver, I believe, has that in the paddock. So that's a great advantage as well. So couple all that together, and it does make for a very exciting 2022.
So Michael, on a personal level, fast forward 12 months, where would you like to be in 12 months' time if we were to have this conversation again? What would you have ideally liked to have achieved?
For me, you know, I need to, in 2022, whatever we choose to drive. I mean, obviously, everybody knows our goal is to be back in British Touring Car. We haven't signed a deal just yet. We have got offers. I just want to make sure I'm in for all 10 rounds, because we can't have another season like we had in 2021. Even though I think it was the right decision to pull out and focus on 2022. We need and my goals for this year, being my third year in British Touring Car, be reaching the podium. You know, podium that's where I want to get. You know, I want to get my first touring car podium this year.
And I know a lot of people in the audience look at you, Michael, and some of them will be wondering, what are you working on? Do you have a coach? What sort of training are you doing? And sort of what's your sort of fitness regime as you enter the season?
So what I've pretty much always done the same for since 2017, is basically I sort of just have a lot of time relaxing, getting my businesses, which are obviously members of BITA as well, and trying to get them in line up till Christmas. And then my preparation sort of starts from Boxing Day forward, with then getting back out, you know, getting running, getting fit, and getting down the gym. And also, like we did last year with Paul in lockdown, we done Mrs. Donnelly's fitness regime, which I'm sure is going to bite me again at some point this year. And but yeah, so that's what I try to do. So when we finish in sort of October, I have sort of the rest of October, November and December getting the businesses right and getting my head back into work. When that's right, I can then focus on my racing and start again in sort of like January, February, and getting pre-season done, ready for the season to start in the end of April.
And how much of the time do you actually spend in the car working on your skills and your driving, or is that something that you can do outside of the car so it improves when you get in?
Yeah, I mean, we spend a hell of a lot of time going through data, video footage and stuff, a lot more doing that than in the car. I mean, if the budgets were there and we could afford to go testing a lot more, then don't get me wrong, that's the best way to learn, you know, just seek time and getting laps in the car. There's a couple of deals that we're talking to with a couple of teams that are offering a lot of testing, which is going to be great for me, because even though I've just been racing to get best drivers in the world in the hardest make series, coming back to British Touring Car, it's a different animal, and Touring Car is its own. There's no other series like it in the world, and I still need a bit of time just to get my feet back on the ground. I had my first test back in a British Touring Car last week. Very successful. I was straight on the pace within 18 laps I done, and I was only 6 tenths slower than the fastest guy. So I was quite happy with that. And, you know, and in my own head, knowing I only gave 7 attempts driving the car, I feel like no one on that grid really bothers me now. Like before, I used to be like, oh, like, you know, there's Colin Turkington or there's Jason Plater. You know, I'm coming back now after racing the best guys in the world, thinking, let's go and compete against these boys.
And what do you see as the biggest takeaway from your Porsche experience that you'll take into BTCC next season?
I just think it's the confidence. I think, you know, this would be my 3rd year. So I've got that monkey off my back where it's like the new boy and stuff. And I know a lot more. I understand the cars a lot more. In 2020, all I'd done was sit with the engineers, learning the cars, learning what to do, learning how it feels when it does this, when it does that. And 2020 would have definitely been my year in British Touring Car. 2021 would have been my year. You know, we were quick, we were fastest in media day. I would have definitely been on the podium the way the car or even won races this year for sure, because the car was mega. And I'd like to say that was partly due to me and Josh developing the car in the winter months, and the car's come out the blocks and finished 3rd in the championship this year, and Josh has won 6-7 races. So you know, we know the car was strong and it would have been a good year, but you know, everything for a reason. And I think I honestly think we'll come back and we'll be strong whatever team we get in.
And Paul, looking forward to next season, can you give us a flavour for some of the highlights that everybody could look forward to and watch out when it hits the live screen on TV for us?
As we say, first of all, one of the highlights for me is on Instagram, you're not going to see Michael with a beer in his hand anymore. That's going to be a major highlight. The second thing is that whatever deal we do put in place, we're taking everything into consideration. We're taking all the experience that we've gained over the last couple of years, and we're going to position Michael into a challenging position this year. So the realization of a podium is very strong. If you look at his track record in terms of what goals he's set, he's never set a goal that hasn't been achieved. And I think that if we can put the right deal in place for him that allows him to do that, well, then he'll continue his success in that regard. And that's going to make for a very, very strong, successful, exciting season.
So who do you think is going to be in the running next year, Michael, to compete with you for those podium positions?
It's so tough. I mean, the class of the field is just getting better and better. And, you know, you like Sebastian Sutton, Colin Turkington, Jake Hill, Rory Butcher, all these boys are going to be there fighting as they are. But make sure, honestly, I've never felt so confident. I'm buzzing to get back. This is where I belong, back in the UK, back on the UK tracks. And I've got massive support behind me and my team behind me as well, with Vince, Paul and Tony. And honestly, I'm just like a greyhound in the traps waiting to go. So trust me, I'm going to come out fighting, and I'm definitely going to be fighting them big boys for the podiums.
So, Paul, you'll sort of be behind the scenes for the next season, and there's certain things that you'll be working on as well. What do you think Michael absolutely has to get right next year to be most successful?
Well, it's continuing to build on the success that he's had before, and focusing on whatever deal we put in place. There's a lot of changes within touring car as well that we need to adapt to. And hopefully this season will be, you know, it won't be disrupted by COVID as much as the last seasons have been. So it's enjoying that spectacle as well. And, you know, one of the things and the key factors to Michael's success is he's got to be in a place where he's enjoying himself. You know, that's when you get the best out of Michael. And that's what we as a team have to make sure that we surround him with that environment, because then we're going to see Creasy 777.
Well, that's a very encouraging word. So let's leave the final word today to Michael. What's your message to the thousands of fans out there who are going to be rooting for you in the coming season?
Just, you know, carry on doing what we're doing. You know, I'll be out there as long as I'm back on the grid. We'll be out there in the campsite seeing everyone on the Friday nights, and I really enjoy that part of it because it sort of weirdly relaxes me before a heavy weekend. You see what I mean? And you know, and I'll be out there, and just their support, you know, is just incredible. And when I come round, I'm sort of already go to sleep at night thinking about you know, the slowing down laps, waving at the crowds, and hopefully I'll be waving from first place and not from mid to the back this year.
Well, that's a very powerful image for us to take away, waving at the crowds as you get that checkered flag crossing over the line. So guys, look, let's leave it there. Thank you so much for joining me on the show. I know everyone in the audience will join me in wishing you both the very best of luck for next season. And we're all behind you and hope the season goes extremely well. And hopefully you'll come back again and give us another update in 5 or 6 months and let us know how everything is going. So, ladies and gentlemen, this has been A Bit of Business. My name is John FitzGerald. Thank you for watching. All the best for now.
Thank you.
Thank you.